Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, welcome, and please subscribe right now because what I am about to tell you today is one of those moments in BTS history that ARMY will be talking about for years. Not because it was the biggest production moment of the Ararang World Tour. Not because it was the loudest or the most visually spectacular or the most technically impressive segment of the show. But because it was real. Because it was human. Because it showed 7 people who have spent over a decade performing at the highest level in the world being genuinely, visibly caught off guard by their own music, and specifically because it showed Jimin, in front of 75,000 people, biting his fingernails trying to remember the words. So let's talk about what happened at the Allianzarena in Munich on the night of July 12, 2026, when BTS performed Louder Than Bombs live for the very first time since the song was released in 2020. Let's start at the beginning, because the history of Louder Than Bombs is essential context for understanding why the Munich moment hit the way it did. The song was released on February 21, 2020, as part of BTS's 4th studio album Map of the Soul, 7. The album itself was a monumental release, the culmination of a creative period in which BTS had been exploring themes of Jungian psychology, personal shadow, collective and individual identity, and the relationship between the public personas they had built across 7 years of career and the private selves that existed behind those personas. Map of the Soul, 7 was received as one of their most ambitious and most emotionally complex works, an album that rewarded close listening and that contains some of the most vulnerable and most sophisticated songwriting of their career. Louder Than Bombs sits within that album as one of its most emotionally loaded tracks. It was co-written with Troye Sivan and Leland, 2 artists with their own deep relationship to introspective, emotionally direct songwriting, and the result is something that sounds both distinctly BTS and distinctly international in its emotional vocabulary. The production is sweeping and cinematic, building from a relatively intimate opening into something that feels genuinely orchestral in its emotional ambition. And the lyrics are the reason the song has been the most consistently requested song for live performance throughout the entire span of BTS's career since its release. The song deals with the experience of feeling overwhelmed by the world, of being broken down by the weight of external pressure and internal pain, and of somehow still standing. The chorus builds to a declaration of survival that is not triumphant in the conventional sense. It is not about having overcome anything, but about continuing to exist in the face of everything that wants to unmake you. Louder than bombs, quieter than fear. The juxtaposition is specific and beautiful and deeply felt, and it has resonated with ARMY across 6 years of loving this song in recorded form while waiting for the moment they would finally hear it live. The reason Louder Than Bombs had never been performed live before Munich was not, as some fans had speculated, a matter of rights or production logistics. The reason, according to information that had circulated in fan communities over the years, related to the song's specific emotional difficulty. One widely discussed fan account, confirmed by multiple sources who had attended or watched BTS's various tour-era interviews and commentary sessions, was that the song's lyrics carry a specific emotional weight for the members themselves, that the themes it explores are close enough to things the members have genuinely experienced that performing it live, in front of an audience, requires a level of emotional preparation and a specific kind of readiness that had not aligned with any tour. Until now. The song is about being destroyed and continuing anyway. For 7 people who have experienced the specific pressures of being BTS, the scrutiny, the expectation, the years of separation from each other for military service, the period of wondering when and whether they would return as a group, those words mean something very specific and very personal. And so for 6 years, ARMY requested the song at every concert they attended, at every fan signing they managed to get a question in it, in every public forum where BTS took fan input about setlists. And BTS, as the story goes, always expressed something between bemusement and affection at the persistence of the requests, apparently slightly puzzled by the intensity of ARMY's attachment to a track that the members themselves might have found difficult to revisit in a live context. BTS is always mildly confused as to why fans like the song so much, and fans just shake their heads wearily. Do BTS not know their own power? That description, from a media outlet covering the Munich moment, captures something real about the dynamic around this song. The gap between how much ARMY loves it and how much the members themselves have kept their distance from it in the live setting tells you something important about what the song actually is. Now let's talk about Munich. July 12, 2026. The second night of BTS's 2-night run at the Allianzarena, which had already produced the Haland walk on day 1 and the Bayern Munich jersey celebration and the butter football moment. 75,000 people in a purple stadium. The Erarang World Tour setlist, already generating discussion across every tour stop for its rotating surprise songs that change from city to city, that give each concert its own specific identity, that have turned the experience of following the tour city by city into something like following a serialized story where you never know exactly what is coming next. The surprise song selection for Munich Day 2 had already included Blood, Sweat and Tears, one of the most beloved songs from their 2016 Wings album, a choice that immediately sent fans into emotional nostalgia for an era that feels both very recent and very distant simultaneously. Munich Day 2 was already delivering for the fans in that stadium. And then RM spoke. According to fan video from the gig, RM told the crowd, "We have to sing this together," before telling the DJ to cue up Louder Than Bombs and shouting, "Come on now, let's go," to wild whoops from the audience. The crowd reaction to RM's announcement, the escalating noise level the moment they understood what was about to happen, captured in multiple fan videos from different sections of the stadium, tells you something about what 75,000 ARMY members all having the same understanding at the same moment sounds like. It is the sound of collective disbelief converting into collective joy in real time. The beat then dropped on the song from the group's 2020 studio album Map of the Soul, 7, which they had never performed in concert before. The ARMY reaction was off the charts, with a video showing fans screaming so loudly when the bass-heavy beat dropped that it was hard at times to hear the singer's vocals on the slow jam. That detail, that the crowd was so loud when the song started that it became difficult to hear the vocals, is one of the most perfect things about this entire story. 6 years of waiting, 6 years of requesting, 6 years of being gently deflected, and when it finally happened, the reaction was so enormous that the very song everyone wanted to hear was briefly swallowed by the sound of everyone hearing it. And then there was Jimin. The footage that circulated most widely from the Louder Than Bombs Munich performance was not the crowd reaction shot, though that was spectacular. It was not the production visuals, though those were apparently beautiful. It was the fan cam footage of Jimin during the performance, specifically, a clip that showed him in a moment that is so achingly human that it immediately became one of the most shared pieces of content from the entire European leg. Jimin was biting his fingernails. Not in a stylized, performative way. In the specific, involuntary way that people bite their nails when they are genuinely trying to concentrate, when they are reaching for something that is almost but not quite within mental grasp, when the pressure of a moment has activated some deep habitual response to stress or effort or focus. He was trying to remember the lyrics. This is the moment that I want to spend some time on, because I think it is the most important moment in the entire Munich Day 2 story, and I think it deserves more than just a brief acknowledgement. Jimin has been a professional performer for over 13 years. He has been on BTS stages for his entire adult life. He has performed in front of audiences that include some of the largest crowds ever assembled for a musical event. His technique is extraordinary, his preparation is famously meticulous, and his commitment to delivering perfect performances is something that has been documented repeatedly across years of behind-the-scenes footage and member testimony. This is not someone who forgets lyrics to songs he has performed 100 times. This is not someone who needs to wing it. But Louder Than Bombs had never been performed live before. Not once. Not in a rehearsal room for an audience, not in a pre-show warm-up, not as a late-night fan meeting edition. The song exists, for Jimin as for the other members, in recorded form only, as something he has heard played back through speakers or headphones but has never had to hold in his body in the way that a live performance requires. And the lyrics, as we have established, are emotionally loaded in ways that are specific and personal to him. Trying to retrieve those words in real time, on stage, in front of 75,000 people, the first time the song has ever existed as a live performance, is an entirely different cognitive and emotional task from performing a song you have sung in concert dozens of times before. The nail-biting is real. It is the evidence of genuine effort, genuine uncertainty, genuine vulnerability from a performer who is almost never vulnerable in this specific way on stage. And ARMY, watching the footage later, responded to it with exactly the kind of love and protectiveness and slightly heartbroken warmth that characterizes how this fanbase responds to seeing Jimin show a human limitation. Not disappointment. Not mockery. but a specific form of tender admiration, the recognition that this person who was so often breathtaking and perfect was, in this moment, simply trying his best with something genuinely hard, and doing it in front of the world, and that the trying was visible and honest and beautiful in its own right. The Jin dimension of the performance added its own layer of comedy and warmth to the story. Fan footage showed Jin, during the same performance, essentially wandering around the stage with the specific energy of a person who has been handed a pop quiz and has not studied. The caption on the widely shared clip read, "Jin roaming around with no clue at all." Now, this requires some context. Jin, who enlisted for military service earlier than the other members due to his birth year, has had a slightly longer reintegration period back into the full group dynamic, and the specific memory work of lyrics for a song that has never been practiced in a live setting hits everyone differently. Jin's response to the situation, the wandering, the slightly lost energy, the complete transparency about the fact that he was not fully locked in, was deeply funny and deeply endearing in a way that only Jin can manage. If Jimin's response was the concentrated effort of a perfectionist refusing to give up, Jin's response was the relaxed pragmatism of someone deciding that the audience's joy at the song existing at all was going to carry the moment regardless. And the audience did carry it. The crowd singing along "Louder Than Bombs" is a song that ARMY knows by heart across all 6 years of its recorded existence, even though none of them had ever sung it in a concert context before, filled the moments where the vocals on stage were uncertain. The stadium became the backup singer. 75,000 people who knew every word provided the sound that the performers were reaching for, and the result was something that no produced, prepared, rehearsed concert moment could have manufactured, a genuinely collaborative performance of a song that had never been performed before, where the artists and the audience were discovering the live version of it together in real time. The response online was immediate, massive, and deeply emotional. "Louder Than Bombs" trended at #1 worldwide on X with over 200,000 posts after the Munich performance. The hashtag was not driven primarily by media coverage or by accounts reposting official content, it was driven by individual ARMYs sharing their personal reactions to the footage, their memories of the 6 years of requesting, their feelings about finally getting the moment. Comments ranged from the purely ecstatic to the genuinely weeping. One widely shared fan post expressed simultaneous grief at not being there in person and joy at it finally having happened. Another described the experience of watching the nail-biting clip as producing tears they had not expected and could not explain. The emotional response to the Munich "Louder Than Bombs" moment is worth examining, because it is more complex than a simple "fans got what they wanted" story. What ARMY were responding to was not just the fulfillment of a 6-year request. They were responding to the complete package of what the moment contained, the surprise of it, the emotional weight of the song itself and its specific themes, the vulnerability of watching Jimin concentrate so hard that his habitual stress response kicked in visibly, the comedy of Jin navigating the stage with cheerful uncertainty, the crowd somehow knowing every word of a song that had never been performed live before, and the fundamental strangeness of hearing a piece of music you have only ever encountered in recorded form suddenly existing as a live, shared, real-time experience in the largest concert setting any of them had ever been part of. There is also something worth noting about the timing of the "Louder Than Bombs" live debut in terms of where this tour is in BTS's career arc. The Yararang World Tour began in April 2026, marking the group's return to the stage as a complete 7-member unit following the completion of all members' mandatory military service. The emotional significance of that return cannot be overstated. For years, ARMY had watched the members serve one by one, had followed the solo projects that filled the gaps, had maintained their connection to the group during a period of enforced separation. The reunion, the first complete group world tour in years, carries a weight that makes every performance, every surprise song, every unrepeatable moment feel more significant than it might in a different context. In that context, performing "Louder Than Bombs" live for the first time takes on additional dimensions. The song is about standing amid destruction. About continuing when the weight of the world is pressing down. About the specific experience of being both broken and still here. For 7 people who have been through what BTS has been through, the relentless public scrutiny, the years of separation from each other and from the live performance that defines a core part of their professional and personal identity, and now the process of coming back together and rebuilding what they are as a group, those lyrics are not abstract. They are personal. And choosing Munich, the second-to-last city before the Paris dates and the FIFA World Cup final halftime show, to finally perform the song for the first time says something about where BTS are in this era of their career, ready for something they were not ready for before. The Map of the Soul, 7 album from which Louder Than Bombs comes is itself a document of a specific moment in BTS's relationship with their own identity and their own story. The album's conceptual framework drew from Carl Jung's concept of the persona and the shadow, the public-facing identity that any person constructs and the repressed or hidden self that exists behind it. For BTS, who had spent years becoming one of the most recognized brands in global entertainment while simultaneously trying to maintain some version of their private selves, the Map of the Soul era was a reckoning with exactly that tension. What does the persona cost? What does it feel like to be both the person and the image? Louder Than Bombs is one of the album's most direct engagements with that question, and hearing it live, from the same 7 people who wrote and recorded it during that specific moment of self-examination, 6 years later, after everything that has happened in between, is a different experience from hearing the studio recording. The fact that Jimin was biting his nails trying to remember the lyrics is, in this context, not just a charming human moment. It is evidence that the song is still live for him in some way, that it still carries enough emotional charge that retrieving it is not a simple technical act but something that requires reaching into a specific place. The way we forget things is not random. We forget the things that have the most complex emotional associations, the things that are accessed through pathways that are tangled with feeling rather than just memory. The difficulty of the recall is itself a form of testimony to what the song means. Now let's talk about what the Louder Than Bombs moment means for the Arirang World Tour's legacy and for the concept of surprise songs more broadly, because the Munich performance crystallized something that has been building across every stop on this tour. The rotating surprise song format, where BTS performs different songs that are not on the standard setlist at each city, songs that change from show to show and have not been officially announced in advance, has transformed the experience of following the Arirang World Tour from a distance into something that feels genuinely participatory. Every city is its own event. Every night has the potential to produce something that has never happened before. An army following city by city online, tracking which songs are being debuted and which long-requested tracks are finally getting their moment, has created a collective experience of anticipation and surprise that extends far beyond the people who are actually inside each stadium. The competitive element that has developed among different city armies, the friendly rivalry about who got the best surprise songs, who got the most historically significant debut, whose night was the most unexpected, is itself a community experience that the tour has created. Madrid got Airplane PT2. Brussels got Boy With Love. London got Dionysus. Munich got Louder Than Bombs. Each of these is a specific gift that Munich specifically, or London specifically, or Brussels specifically can claim as theirs, a moment that happened there and nowhere else, that is woven into the particular memory of that city's concert nights. And Louder Than Bombs, as a live debut after 6 years of being one of the most requested songs in ARMY's collective wishlist, is objectively the most significant surprise song of the entire tour so far. It is the longest awaited, the most personally meaningful, the most emotionally loaded choice. That BTS chose to give it to Munich, the only German stop on the entire tour, the stadium where 75,000 people waited 8 years for their first German concert dates since 2018, is a specific act of generosity toward a specific community that had been waiting for an extraordinarily long time for exactly this kind of night. For Jimin, the Munich Louder Than Bombs performance joins a long list of moments from this tour that reveal different dimensions of who he is beyond the extraordinary dancer and vocalist that most public coverage focuses on. In Brussels, he was the person who stopped a show to make sure a fan got medical attention. In Las Vegas, he was the person whose braids reached Telemundo. In London, he was the person whose hat sold out before ARMY could even post about it. In Munich Day 1, he was the person who turned a fan's Haland comparison sign into a stage bit in front of 70,000 people. And in Munich Day 2, he was the person who stood on the stage of one of the world's most famous stadiums, biting his nails, reaching for words that had lived only in his memory and never in his live voice, and delivering them imperfectly, humanly, visibly trying it to a crowd that loved every imperfect, human, trying moment of it. The trending data from the night tells the numerical story of what the moment meant. Number 1 worldwide on X. Over 200,000 posts. But numbers never tell the full story of these things. The full story is in the nail biting. In the wandering gene. In the 75,000 people singing lyrics, they had never been given the opportunity to sing live before, and singing them perfectly because they had been waiting 6 years for exactly this moment. In the specific quality of the collective exhale that happens when something you have wanted for a very long time finally exists in the world. BTS moves on from Munich to Paris, the Stade de France, on July 17th and 18th, 2 nights in one of the most iconic stadiums in the world, in one of the great music cities on earth. And then, on July 19th, they co-headlined the FIFA World Cup final halftime show at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey alongside Madonna and Shakira, the biggest single performance opportunity of their career, in front of an estimated billion-plus viewers worldwide. The remainder of the Ararang World Tour then continues through Latin America and other regions before concluding in Manila in March 2027. But whatever else happens in those remaining dates, and given what this tour has produced so far, something extraordinary is virtually guaranteed at every stop. Munich Day 2 will remain as one of the nights that defined the Ararang era. The night that Louder Than Bombs finally became a live song. The night that Jimin bit his nails on stage and 75,000 people loved him more for it than for any technically perfect performance he has ever delivered. The night that the crowd sang Louder Than Bombs, and the bombs in question were the weight of 6 years of waiting and wanting and finally getting. Thank you so much for watching. If this video meant something to you, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more content following every dimension of the BTS Ararang World Tour. Drop a comment below and tell me, were you one of the army who has been requesting Louder Than Bombs live for years? What was your reaction when you heard it finally happened in Munich? I want to read every single comment. And I will see you in the next video.